I don't know what to say, but I'm going to try my best. The man that used to be known as Michael Taht. Artist formerly known as Michael Taht, speaker, singer, songwriter, pianist, shit disturber, slayer of buffer plot, king of the road. I'm not good at this, man. Anyway, why don't I hand the mic to you?
I got one right
Okay.
here. Thank you very much for the intro. You know, after all these years, I've always thought your name was Hamal. Is it Jamal or Hamal? I would just like to thank the organizer of this conference for not only encouraging me to get here and do something that's outside of my usual boring talks and do something I do outside of that, and for his many years of service to the Linux community.
And I did whisper BQL to Tom. He had it from me first. Yeah.
I also missed Stephen Heminger last time for his also many years of service. So anyway. I'm curious, who here has been working on Linux for more than 20 years? Have I missed anybody? David over there, routing protocols, etc. Who's been working on Unix for more than 30 years? Me and Stephen, that's it. I started working on Unix back in 1979. It was called Xenix. It ran on an 8-bit processor. Cost $15,000 a box for the real estate market. And I was hooked. I was screwed. I had to work on that multitasking operating system. It just made so much sense. So when Windows and DOS came around, not in that order, of course, I had no idea what everybody was talking about. I just kept working on Unix, or Xenix, I should say. And I watched the whole world explode in a different direction. So in the 80s, the whole internet thing didn't really exist. What we had was bulletin board systems, and we had CompuServe, things like that. Anybody here remember CompuServe? 2 people total. Me, I ran a little FidoNet node. Anybody here a FidoNet? 2 more people. And that connected people's personal computers to other people's personal computers all over the world. It's neat. Anyway, how's that coming out for you guys? That's good. Anyway, around 1989, the internet and net news started to gain momentum. People were seeing the advantages of Metcalfe's law and connecting people to people, starting with the universities of the world. And we created an interesting community over the net news and Usenet backbone of ideas organized by topic and people conversing all over the world. One of my favorite fun stories from that time is some friends of mine at Drexel ran out of disk space, and they were supposed to delete their files in 3 days. And what they did instead is that they bundled them all up and they shipped them off around the world on a bang path, a UCP bang path, guaranteed to last for at least a month. So they sent it back up all the way around the world, and it came back when they finally had disk space. Anyway, the internet took off seriously in 1992, and I started an ISP called iConnect. And it was really cool. About the year before that, I was explaining to a psychiatrist how I talk to millions of people every day. And that psychiatrist wrote down on her piece of paper, "The patient is grandiose and delusional." I was trying to explain Usenet in the only words I could, but people thought I was crazy. So the next year I went out and founded an ISP and put tens of thousands of people online using IRC and things like that. And we had people who used to get dressed up to go out and get on the internet because they didn't have the ability to have it at home. So some friends of mine started up a cyber cafe. Anybody ever been to one of those? They call them Starbucks now. And it was called Cyber Nation, and it became a hotbed of interesting people doing cool things in games like that. And one day, a really beautiful young lady who had never been on the internet walked in and had no idea what to do. So the owner logged her in the IRC, and this is what happened. She goes down to Cybernation just to check her email. I was in the Navy, oh, and her father's still in jail. But she likes email. Met this guy, but his name was Virginia. Gave her the best text she ever had. Met her down in Cybernation. Say, Hex can't be that bad. Computer joke for the audience. This is the sing-along part. Ready? Cybernation. Living in some sort of mystical, magical cross-world cohabitation. Cybernation. We all lived in Cybernation, connected by wires and electrons and emoticons and light. And something utterly profound crossed the nations. But it's an odd and sometimes ironic life. And maybe I'll find a virtual wife. We'll both get jobs in Second Life. It's very virtual then, you know. Ah, this princess of Morocco, going to college in Paris, France. And IRC, she told me that we'd be friends forever, ever, and ever. And she would teach me to dance. But we never got that chance. You know why? We just lived in Cybernation, connected only by wires and emoticons and light. Till something profound crosses across the nations. Sing along, man. Cybernation, living in some sort of mystical, magical cohabitation. Cybernation. So that's what the internet looked like to me in 1991. It was full of possibilities for people to reach out and meet each other. And I have another funny story from that time. I was young and single, and I reached out to a lovely lady in France who's in the song. And we had this wonderful exchange. French was very happy, with exclamation points all over the place. And after 6 months from my really busy job running the ISP, I got some really cool software that would translate English into French. So I asked her, I wrote her a very long letter about serious stuff about like children and things like that. And I sent it to her without the English text translated into French. And she went dark on me. She ghosted me. About 3 weeks later, she finally got back to me after I didn't know I did. She said, what was this thing about eating babies? Anyway, she got back in touch with me about 2 or 3 years ago via Facebook. We've had a good laugh over that. So the core thing that I did not understand is that language and idiom do not necessarily translate. I tried to teach someone here about the American idiom called break a leg. You use that if you're superstitious in the circus industry, and instead of good luck. And she didn't understand what I meant by break a leg, but I think she did fine anyway. So I have about an hour, I think, to do this. I'm going to try to get through what I've been doing for the last 30 years because I want to retire. So I worked on that ISP for a really long time, and then worked on Linux. I worked on one of the first Wi-Fi routers since before it was called Wi-Fi. And back in 1998, we were stuck on the side of a mountain, and we had a need, so we managed to make Linux run Wi-Fi 13 miles down into the valley, and it was pretty cool. We published a how-to and how to do it, and gradually Linux on embedded systems began to take off, and I worked on embedded Linux for a really long time. Somewhere around there, Red Hat went public. Anybody here remember Red Hat's story? How about the GPL? Do people remember the GPL? Anybody? I got 3 people left in the room, or the rest of you are asleep. I'm going to do a song by the request of the promoter on that in a few minutes. Anyway, at the time, we thought we were in a collaborative enterprise trying to make the universe and the world better by sharing our code with each other, by being craftsmen. And we had created a license that made sure that people shared back. And we built a community around Linux that made sure that Linux ultimately took off through the collaborative effort of tens of thousands of people throwing in a couple lines of code. And we passionately thought we were going to change the world. And at the same time, all the bigger corporations of the world, such as Microsoft, were fighting back. In fact, this is kind of an anniversary for us. Eric Raymond, I forget when he published this, published the Halloween documents. Has anybody ever hear of that? Which was all about Microsoft's strategies to make sure to disembowel the Linux movement, embrace and extend. And in this enormous debate that happened over about the next 7, 8 years, gradually Linux displaced a lot of the existing Unix market and made some inroads elsewhere through our collaborative work. And so here it is, Halloween again, and I'm here to talk about, eventually, 3 things that I would like to solve before I retire. Those are finishing the IPv6 deployment. I don't expect that to be done before I retire, but I hope to get across the hump. Fixing buffer bloat. By the way, we are 1 line of code today. 1 line of configuration for 100 million cable modems. You could have vastly improved upload latencies if only I could convince the remaining cable companies to deploy it. It's a little annoying. I have a few other tools that we've developed over the last 14 years that if we finish deploying those too, the internet will become much faster and less latent for everybody and much less annoying, so I hope. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The other thing that I cared deeply about all the way back then was improving our security and improving quality distribution of software to our embedded devices before our light bulbs betray us. The world of IoT is quite terrifying. I don't buy any gear anymore that does anything smart because I know it's not doing anything smart for software development. And we have wonderfully developed a great structure over the last 10, maybe 15 years of distributing rapid updates to our phones and our laptops, but not to our routers or the light bulbs. And I hope that somehow in the next few years we find a way to make sure these basic, your front door to your own home is actually secured. So moving forward in time, back in 2005, I was semi-retired and I went down to Nicaragua and worked on the One Laptop Per Child project. Has anybody ever heard of that project? Little green hand-powered laptops. This is before cell phones. And back then I was a little naive. I thought that kids in the third world would like a good little laptop and access to knowledge and all the things that I'd grown up on, like net news, email, things like that. And boy, was I wrong. I got down there and I realized that more than that tried to deploy, and the first school I went to had no power and 3 books. I went to another place that had 1 teacher for 130 students and no power and no books. I went to another school that I can hardly describe the condition it was in and anything else. And I realized at first they needed books. I mean, before that they needed health care, they needed food, and they really didn't need a little green laptop connected to the internet all that much. And that was phase 1 of my change into who I am today, and realizing that you have to listen to people and what their needs are in order to succeed in making the world a better place. I have a funny story about a bunch of kids getting together over a soccer ball that cheered me up, and ended up being a team of 30 plus kids playing with each other. And all they didn't need a laptop or the internet, they just needed a soccer ball and some time. So moving forward, Jim Geddes discovered one of the reasons why the internet works so badly for everybody in 2010. Hey, we haven't give Jim Geddes an applause. Any of you use X Windows? How about the web? And Jim realized that the internet had changed on him when he wasn't looking, and it turned out that it was changed on a lot of people due to a bunch of mistakes that a bunch of people made in the Linux community. It's our fault in part. Simultaneously, we increased the buffer sizes for the queues on the built-in in the Linux kernel from 100 to 1,000, order of magnitude. We added this thing called TSO, which is 42 times that. And suddenly all of our algorithms for managing VoIP and video started to fail, but nobody really knew it was a slow thing as the deployment rolled out. 2008 happened, and all the embedded companies, like the one I used to work for, went under. So people just took the stuff that we'd screwed up on and started deploying it in the hundreds of millions. Jim, I duplicated Jim's results, and I rang him up, and I said, hey, I understand you. He was one of the first people to understand him, and I started working on this project, which I spent 14 years working on. It's reversing those 2 mistakes and how we actually queued packets in order to make the internet capable of carrying voice, video, gaming, web, all kinds of traffic simultaneously. And we mostly succeeded by 2012 with the amazing help of multiple people. I've already brought out Tom Herbert, whose fundamental innovation ripped out 2 orders of magnitude of latency in the stack. Can you give him a hand again? Well, and all of our algorithms on top started working, and then I got involved myself and started working on algorithms that would make things better. My starting point was a thing called Wonder Shaper, which I'd used before then. And I wanted a Wonder Shaper that worked against widely variable wireless links, because I've been working with Wi-Fi for so long. And I didn't have one. I just had this vision of how great the internet would be if all of our wireless technologies worked as well as wired. And I went all over the world, sleeping on couches, visited Eric Raymond in his couch, went all the way to France and visited Julius Krobacek. I can talk about him later. And I also finally met Eric Dumazet. Eric is Linux's network ninja. He deserves a place in the Hall of Fame. He's invented so much stuff that you all use today that's really brilliant. But his first escapade with me was learning how, creating what was called the flow queuing algorithm, FQCODL. once we got that into the kernel, we solved a whole bunch of theoretical problems the internet had. Things like TCP synchronization with the least of it. And that was a really good day back in May of 2022. So back then, we really had the spirit of the GPL. We thought that we'd write this up, we'd give it away, it would propagate over the course of a few months, and it didn't. We made it the default in Linux, but then we took it to the IATF. It took 6 years to turn it into this standard. And even then, various and sundry versions of it have appeared that are broken, and I'm personally responsible, I guess, probably propagating this for almost every single packet on all of your machines today goes through this slightly broken version of this algorithm. How many people here run Apple? Been trying to get Apple to fix their implementation for 5 years. It doesn't have the coddle part in it at all. There's no inverse square root. I pointed it out in the source code. They wanted more proof. Ah, well. I wanted to do a happy song about the GPL, about the time when we were fighting the Microsofts of the world and all the other people that didn't believe in free software before we renamed it to open source. So there's a guy, you might have heard of him, named Richard Stallman. There's another guy named Eric Raymond. And there's a third guy named Craig Mundy who worked for Microsoft and was doing his damnedest to destroy the movement. Started one day by the Boston Bay. Richard's printer was on the blink. Vendor wasn't funny when he wanted more money and thought he didn't know how to think. Richard hung up and then he got up and he fixed the damn thing himself. He wrote this tome I've made my home. It's called the GPL. Oh, the hardware. Oh, the wetware, the software, let it all run free. And GPL's me to my soul, just like rock and roll, how it used to be. GPL's me to my soul, just like rock and roll, how it used to be. And Eric let me scratch my hitch, and he was handy with words and gun. If Monday had his way, nothing would be free till 2091. Now moguls may vulture my culture, well past the time very old. When you unfreeze me, you better believe me, I want to see my code. Oh, the hardware, oh, the software, the wetware, let it all run free. It GPL'd me to my soul, just like Rainbow Road. GPL'd me to my soul. Now, Richard Stallman gave me the permission to release this song under the terms of the comedic license, which is the only time he's ever given a license exception in his life. Just like rock and roll. Now, things change. And back then, Microsoft was the enemy. Well, we used to have Bill Gates on our case, his corporation twisting words, saying that Sharon's un-American. Ha! We all want our voices to be heard. And some may love me, it's just my hobby, building groups so fast and strong. It's a coder's revolution, it's another solution. Why don't you come along? Oh, software. Oh, the wetware, The hardware, get it all from HSC. It GPL'd me to my soul, just like a rock and roll I used to be. GPL's me to my soul. And that was the power and the emotion of the movement we had then. And when Red Hat went public, they shared their IPO stock with every kernel developer. Everyone could buy in at the stock price. And I thought that that method, had it continued for all the companies that built their business on the back of open source, all of us we'd have our own islands. And we'd be able to work on an incredibly difficult, impossible to explain tasks without having to explain it to anyone. But unfortunately, that experiment failed and was never repeated. So, anyway, I started working on the buffer load problem. And I had an incredible amount of negativity. You can't possibly run these academic algorithms like SFQ or whatever on a home router. That won't possibly work. After BQL arrived, a couple weeks later, we actually got all 20 years worth of wonderful research on AQM and fair queuing algorithms to actually work. And right about then, who here has heard of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? That's good. So who here has ever heard of Woody Guthrie? Woody Guthrie? No? I'll explain it in a minute. That's Arlo, his son, and no, I'm not doing that. I might do a Woody song, though. Anyway, just to explain to the remaining people in the audience, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy featured the opening pages of a group of evil bureaucrats showed up and destroyed the Earth for hyperspace bypassed. And they were really surprised that civilization people were still there. Because the plans have been on file at Alpha Centauri for 50 years and nobody had gone to see them. And that kicked off the book from there. Ironically, I asked ChatGPT about myself, and the ChatGPT said that I was the president of Magritha from that book recently. I don't know how it got that. And then I was a fictional character. And I'm right here. But the idea of Vogons, faceless, evil bureaucrats destroying planets for no good reason, stuck with me. So I came up with this, what was been my signature thing. This machine kills Vogons. It's a reference to Woody Guthrie's original This Machine Kills Fascists back in the 30s. But I put the things together because, there's just full of all these people that say no for no good reason. And I kept proving them wrong over and over and over again over the last 14 years. And I have to admit, that was fueled by a lot of anger at them for doing that. So I thank them now for making me so mad. Oh, I can do that. I can do that too. I can make it do this. I can actually fix the internet for everybody. So more recently, I discovered that I no longer had all that anger anymore. So I changed the logo now to This Machine Cures Vogons, because I have met a few bureaucrats that are really actually rather nice and trying to do the right thing. So about 2 years ago, I gave up on fixing home routers. I'm tired. Would anyone here like a nice home router built in 1998? You come back to me after the show. The point I wanted to make, though, is that this guy here can do 300 megabits through the Wi-Fi, and it can do, using the cake algorithm, it can do well over 60 megabits on the upload. And most ISPs to this day do not deliver that much bandwidth. So a 15-year-old box with new software can do that. Ignacio, I don't know if you're here today. We have somebody that did it recently, reflashed all of his older routers in the field to a modern OpenWRT and turned on Cake. So with just a software upgrade, we can turn almost all the routers in the world into something modern and capable of IPv6. Gonna do one more song. I'm gonna talk a little bit about IPv6 if I can. But let me go look at my notes. How much time do I have? Come back, computer. Now, originally this talk was I was going to talk about how I've been trying. I have 6 minutes? 15, thank you.
15.
6 I can't do, 15 I can. Anyway, I'm hoping I can get Emily up to help me do a song. We're going to close out with Hallelujah, all right? So that gives me 8 minutes to finish my other points. Okay. So, I want to talk. Can you cue up the IPv6 video then for me? And then I can talk over that. I can hopefully talk over that music there. This is what the internet looked like in 2003. And IPv6, which is a replacement for version 4 of the internet, has much bigger addresses. We ran out of address space in IPv4 in 2009, effectively, and we've hoped to replace it with IPv6 since 27 years. It's very possible it will take another 50 or 100 years to finish replacing the version of IPv6. But I hope that we can distribute better raise awareness of what's going on, that will be able to restore the connectivity of person-to-person communications that we, the hippies that designed the hippie protocols, will be able to get people to connect to each other once again. Once It's going to take a lot of work on behalf of the people, not just the engineers that develop it, but the people that it's going to take regulation, I'm convinced now. The government leaning in and saying, just like it did in China and India recently, that thou must deploy IPv6 in order to build a better internet. I also believe we should improve on IPv4. I have been pilloried many times for suggesting we open up the 240/4 address space. 1/16 of the original internet is on that. And we could use it for something. But all the same, IPv6 is deploying pretty heavily across cell phone networks. It's mostly lagging on the older networks, which connect with older routers. And we can fix those by upgrading the routers to modern and more secure software. Thank you for the video. So, despite working on these algorithms that you're all using today and having billions and billions of instances, don't make a whole lot of money. The algorithms work too well. They were more finicky. People would throw checks. So I have a tendency to pass out the hat at shows like this. But I have a song that that Jamal asked me to write on the trip up. And despite working so hard on the internet itself, it's been devolving in a certain way that I hate. I originally appreciated the idea of codes of conduct. I did. I really did. But they needed to also come with ethics. Engineers are obligated to tell the truth. Otherwise, people die. And a lot of our world has seemingly devolved where we tell each other really nice things. If you read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, about things that are really truly going to hell. And if there's any one thing that angers me the most, it's called surveillance capitalism. So I'm working on this song. I would actually prefer you not record it. You can broadcast it if you like, but it's okay. It's not done yet. Has anyone ever heard For What It's Worth? No? So I'm going to need to sit down, I think. I guess you can record it. Go ahead. But honestly, this is going to have to evolve quite a lot. But live, premiered at Netdev Conf, November 5th, 2023. something happening here. What it is exactly clear. There's a mark with a manifesto there. I'm telling you, you got to beware. Stop, log off now, get outside and go to town. The AI's hear every tweet, and they know you are what you eat. The Kindle sees every page. I turned off mine, turned to the days of rage. Oh, stop, baby, log off now, hug someone and get on down. KGB, GHQ, and NSA all care too much about what you say. Sometimes I think I made a new friend, and then they turn out to be an LLM. Oh, stop, baby, log off now, get on down, get on down. The signal knows who you call, and they say they don't hear nothing at all. But Zoom is a little more crass. Oh yeah, we spy, but only on the lower class. Oh, stop, baby, log off now. Get offline. Get on down. Stop. Oh, hey, ChatGPT, can you write this song for me? Anyway, that's my angry punk song for the night. I'd love to bring Emily up to help me on the beautiful song I've been playing all through COVID, because I can't sing it and play it at the same time. I'm hoping you have the lyrics. Awesome.
Just look at me when you're done with the intro. Just take this.
Yes, where's my drummer? Get up here. Drummer. Can I tell some drummer jokes?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the story about drummers. Now, it's really hard to tell. You can't tell blonde jokes anymore. I'm pretty sure drummer jokes, because they're all true, can be told. And drummers have an amazing facility to control all four limbs of their body and not much else. So I have a really favorite joke. Could I tell it to you about drummers in general?
Sure.
All right. I need you to help me, though. Okay, so I'm going to pretend to be a drummer. Okay. Again, no resemblance to you. You're going to be playing your thighs? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to do it with you instead, since she's closer. Anyway, I need you to ask me two questions. So you say, ask me, what do you do? Slowly, because I'm a drummer. And I'll answer you. And you say, so what's your problem?
What do you do?
Slower.
What do you do?
I'm a drummer.
Well, what
Timing.
It's up to you. You just look at me when you're ready. It's fine. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Maybe a little higher, yeah. faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. Nice. She tied you to a kitchen chair, she broke your throne, she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Baby, I've been here before. I've seen this room, I've walked this floor. You used to live alone before I knew you. I've seen your flag on the marble arch. Love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 There was a time you let me know what's really going on below. Now you never show that to me, do you? Remember when I moved in you, the holy dove was moving too, and every breath we drew was hallelujah. 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 Maybe there's a God above. All I ever learned from love was how to shoot at someone who outdrew you. It's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Thank you so much for sitting in on that. Thank you. And I think that's all I have for you today. I just wanted to remind you all that what we do may ultimately affect thousands or millions or billions of people, and to do good work. I'm looking forward very much to seeing humanity escape into the solar system. And I think we're going to do that, maybe not in my lifetime, but in yours. In fact, I have one more song I could do, if you'll let me. Do I have anyone's permission to do one more song? I got Emily's permission. I got the sound crew's giving it up. Why don't you stay? So I've been a spaceship enthusiast for a really long time, and I thought that by now we would be living in space. I was wrong. But when I saw SpaceX land 2 rockets at the same time after failing thousands and thousands of times in hilarious ways, I was inspired to write a song about it, about how hard we try and how hard we have to keep trying no matter what through all of our failures. So I grew up on a lot of science fiction. Anybody here ever see any old black and white Buck Rogers serials? A silver spaceship with a butane lighter flame coming out the bottom, landing on its tail. That was the right thing. When I was a kid, growing up, Buck Rogers always landed tail first. and yet we'd never had a landing on the cool green hills of Earth. And I dreamed of O'Neill colonies spinning in the stars, and I thought we'd be in the asteroids and moving on to Mars. We tried with gallows wings and other things, and nitrogen tetroxide. And all I dreamed was of rockets landing with their engines flaming high. And I was there for Spaceship One's last flights, I saw willing that ship to land. And all my dreams restarted then, and I regained hope for man. But we tried shuttle wings, other things. The costs were way too high. All I dreamed was of rockets landing with their engines flaming high. And I practiced all my landings using Kerbal Space Program as my guide. Smashed my bits on autonomous drone ships or crashed them on the side. But we just read the instructions laid out before our time, and they're sticking to landings on pad 39. We tried with gallows wings and other things, nitrogen tetroxide. And all I dreamed was of rockets landing with their engines flaming high. Everybody, we tried with gallows wings and other things, and nitrogen tetroxide. And all I dreamed was of rockets landing with their engines flaming high. Thank you. It's an ancient tradition called filking. You can write any... Why the heck do you need to write a melody if you can just write new words to a really good one? That's to an old song called Puff the Magic Dragon. So, anyway, with that, thank you. Good night.